Curtain Network.
¡Pique the Pickens! ¡Pique the Pickens! ¡Pique the Pickens!
That's right. Pick it to Pickens. It's coming up. Steelers training camp is on its way. It's hard to believe. We're only less than 3 weeks away, and we're back for another Steelers preview podcast. As we alluded to last week, there is no Brian Davis. He is in the woods. There is no Dave Schofield. He is at the beach. And so I had to find some substitutes. These guys are doing some heavy lifting. I thought my week was bad. Shoot, they're doing 3 nights in a row. 2 of the homies. Let's Big G, what's up? How are you tonight?
Hey, what's cracking, Jeff, man? Thanks for the opportunity to having us on the podcast, man. And you know I'm always down with talking Steelers talk. So let's do what we do and get it in.
Yeah, absolutely. Tate, what's up?
What's up, Jeff, man? Yeah, I'm with Big G. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it, man. Just to get on, talk some Steelers ball, and hey, whatever questions or whatever you got for us, man, let's get it.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not the triple OG that Shannon White is, but you'll have to suffice with me.
Yeah, hey, Jeff's more like Kingpin-ish. So we'll give Jeff the name the Kingpin, and we'll call Shannon the triple OG triple. How about that one?
Yeah,
man?
Shannon got that name because him and Brian are two of the few that are actually older than us by a little bit.
There you go. Good stuff, man.
For sure.
I feel like at least this week you didn't have to deal with in the previous shows, you know, a Bengals fan or a Bears fan who also calls himself a Ravens fan. So in that regard, we can just talk nothing but Steelers all the time. And what I wanted to talk about tonight, let's get the show off started, was essentially looking back, almost like the offseason that was. Because here we are in this lull. And what we know now is different than what we knew at every step of the process. You know, the season ends. You've got that month-long hiatus while the playoffs wrap up, the Super Bowl wraps up. Then the new league year starts in March, and that kicks off free agency. Well, free agency was a frenzy for the Steelers. You think about additions like Patrick Peterson, Nate Herbig, Braden Fihoko, Cole Holcomb, Landon Roberts. I could go down the list. You know that Isaac Seumalo on the offensive side of the ball.
Yes, sir.
Thinking where we are now. So knowing all that we know now, I want you to go back and I want you to kind of reanalyze your thoughts about the Steelers free agency and say, am I still as excited as I was then, or have I maybe tempered my expectations based on one thing or the other? G, we'll start with you. What do you think looking back at free agency?
Well, first of all, you know, I got to give some honor to Omar Khan, man, because this guy came into the Pittsburgh Steelers and changed, in my opinion, the face of the franchise and where we were headed as far as an organization. You know, the con man is dangerous, what he does, man. And the con man made moves for us that changed not just the complexion or perplexity, but actually put us in position to be a winning, successful team this year. Our free agency and our draft, I mean, I've heard it all on all social networks, all social media, all media outlets. Pittsburgh got an A in both areas. And so you can't have an A in free agency and an A in the draft and not put a product out on the field. So I got to give Omar his props. As far as the players is concerned, man, we hit a home run, man. We got 2 middle linebackers. We got a couple of safeties. We got a corner. We added defensive line depth. We hit a home run with the offensive line depth. I love Allen Robertson. And then when you flip it and go in the draft, and we just added pieces all around it. Me and Tate Boy Fresh have been saying forever that the Pittsburgh Steelers are building a bully. And this is what we built. We built a team. It doesn't matter about playoffs and all whatever else. You got to win your division first. And we built a team to win our division this season. So that's my take, you know.
Yeah, let me ask you one question before I throw it over to Tate and get his take on the free agency. And you brought up Omar Khan. And the way you spoke about him and this new front office, this new look front office, this new regime, if you want to put it that way. Man, what was the difference, though, between Colbert and Khan? Because you're talking about the overall schematic change in terms of perception and what they're building. Well, what the hell is Kevin Colbert doing? I mean, where's the philosophy difference in your opinion?
Well, Kevin Colbert's issue was just to keep the ship right. Because remember, Kevin Colbert was attached to Ben Roethlisberger, even maybe more than Mike Tomlin. So Omar Khan's like, look, I got a fresh blueprint. I'm starting from scratch. I got a baby quarterback that I can build around. Let me get aggressive and put him in position to duplicate and do more than Joe Burrow. So there's the difference between those two schemes. Colbert was attached to Roethlisberger. Khan got a new canvas. That's just my thoughts.
That's a good. Hey, Tate, let's start over to you. What do you think about everything, man? Free agency, Omar Khan, the new regime, all of it.
Man, I kind of agree with everything Big G had to say, really. I think the difference between Colbert and Khan is it's just like in any industry. Colbert is one of the workers from a time past. A little bit of fresh blood. Colbert's probably like 15, 17 years older than Khan. He has new ideas. He talks to these assistant general managers and people around the league that are new and fresh like himself. And the only thing is now he has the keys to the car. I kind of agree with Big G on that. As far as the team, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, we know they have an identity and a culture. And we kind of got away from that. You know, Ben Roethlisberger, all-time great quarterback, best quarterback in Pittsburgh Steelers history. But, he wanted to throw the ball around and go 3 wide, and Antonio Brown and divas like himself, Antonio Brown. We know Big Ben could have been the drama queen too. Devin Bush, guys like that were good football players, but didn't necessarily really fit that hardcore lunch pail, hard hat identity that the Steelers have. And I think Omar Khan working with Andy Wild and Tomlin, they're kind of getting back to that. And also you got to put Mr. Rooney in there too.
Yes.
Rooney's been around all this time, and he knows what his teams look like and what he wants them to look like going forward.
So, Tate, I want to ask you this question about Kevin Colbert while he's on the top of my brain. Simple yes or no. Is Kevin Colbert a Hall of Famer eventually, in your opinion?
Do I have to say yes or no? Can I say absolutely?
You can say whatever you want as long as it's a definitive.
Absolutely. He's a Hall of Famer.
G, you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt. There's no wavering. He is one.
Yeah. And he built that thing. People say like in the live chat, he was, hamstrung with Ben Roethlisberger's, contract. He drafted Ben Roethlisberger. He brought him into the organization. He deserves credit for that as well.
And let's not forget he drafted Kenny Pickett.
Correct.
That's true too. His last draft class. That's going to be important to remember. That for all three of us here, that's going to be really important to remember as we continue to go down this road with Kenny Pickett. Hopefully, as he morphs himself into a franchise quarterback that's going to be here for another 18 plus years, we have to remember that it was actually Kevin Colbert's draft pick and not Omar Khan's. It's a really great point. So Omar Khan had never had a full offseason. He came in after the draft in 2022. Yes, he was responsible for several key moves that year, whether it was bringing in Larry Ogunjobi on that 1-year contract. That was him. The Chase Claypool trade is obviously like the cherry on top of the sundae, right? This was his first go around with the NFL draft. I got to be honest. Like everyone said he was aggressive. When you look at it from he traded up in the first round. He got Broderick Jones. I understand that. Smart move. The Patriots helped him out. Can't believe I just said that, but they did. And to me though, man, he got lucky. The board did fall their way. Like who would have thought that Darnell Washington would last all the way to the 3rd round, and not only to the 3rd, but they trade back in the 3rd to gain a 4th, and he's still there. Like I never would have imagined that, and that's not aggressive. Sometimes you got to be a little lucky, but looking back on the draft in its entirety. So think about the process. Think about the players that were picked. Maybe picks that you wish would have gone another way. Has anything changed, Big G?
No, absolutely not. The only guy that I wish that we would have had an opportunity to get, which I knew I was just dreaming, was I wanted Paris Johnson out of Ohio State. I mean, he had a bona fide.
You're a Buckeye fan,
yeah,
of course.
But he's a bona fide left tackle. He's a 15-year starter. Yeah. He's probably Hall of Fame, and that's a lot to say right now. But that's the only guy out of all the guys we got. I wanted every last one of them. I'm talking about. Who thinks Joey Porter Jr. falls to the first pick of the 2nd round? I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
And then he turns right back around, and like you said, Darnell Washington falls to us later on because he was a projected first. So with all GMs, it is talent, it is skill, it is evaluation, but it's also you got to have a little bit of luck. And there was some luck going on with some of that, but sometimes luck is keeping your ear close to the ground. And you can't tell me that Omar Khan didn't know that certain guys was going to fall to him in certain positions. He probably knew something about JPP going into it. Now, whether or not he felt he had to jump back into the 1st round late and draft him, or did he wait to the 2nd round? Maybe, maybe not. but he still did an outstanding job. And I'm talking about all the way down to Corey Trice at the 7th round, which Corey Trice, I'm telling you right now, is a nickel corner for us and is going to start within a year or two. He's that dynamic. As long as he stays healthy, he's ready to roll. 6'3", 200-something pounds, 4'3", 40. Come on, man. So Khan handled his business, to me.
Yeah, Corey Trice, whose nickname is Trees, by the way.
Yeah.
So let me ask you about the left tackle. You brought up Paris Johnson. That was your guy. I get it. They get Broderick Jones. Most would say that in terms of round 1 tackles, he was the last rated in that category. He's a project. I think he's more of a project. He's not the finished product that is a Paris Johnson, as your example. Do you think he starts in week 1?
It depends a lot on what happens over the next few weeks in training camp. See, this is the thing. This is the thing about talent. Talent can only get you so far. You have to have preparation, practice, preparedness, and patience. And you have to be willing to learn. He came from a perfect program in Georgia that taught him that, because Georgia's an NFL-ready program. Now he's just got to take it from the collegiate level and move it up to the professional level. You have to be a professional at all times. Do I think he has it in him? Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. He has it in him. But he's got to do those P's. He's got to hit those P's to make sure he's ready to go. I think we have a coach that can promote that. So I look for him to, let's throw him out there maybe week 2, let him run with the starters. And in the preseason, week 3, let him run with the starters. And if he's ready to roll, you don't wait, man. Let's go. Let's go right off the bat.
Tate, what about you? Your thoughts about the NFL draft? And then if you want to chime in on the Broderick Jones take, absolutely go ahead.
Well, first I'd like to chime in on the Paris Johnson take.
Okay.
We're going to, Jeff, we're going to be starting a new show. It's called Pump Your Brakes. This is precisely why. Paris Johnson, a Hall of Famer, and hasn't played a game.
He is.
And you can hold up your bias sign, G. I'm an Ohio State fan too, but we know what it is.
You want me to hit Jeff with the bias sign, man? Already,
I want you to hit yourself with the bias sign.
Okay, I'll get it here in a second. I promise.
But I think the draft went perfectly. The first three of the first 4 picks: Broderick Jones, JPJ, Joey Porter Jr., and Darnell Washington. In all the mocks leading up to it, at some point or another, I had one of those players going in the first round.
Absolutely.
I think Omar Khan was smart enough and risky enough. That's another thing. I think Omar Khan takes more risk than what Colbert would have took. Because he could have picked Darnell Washington where he picked Keanu Benton and not been wrong. No, everybody been okay with it.
Yeah.
But he took Keanu Benton. There was a defensive tackle that those guys were looking at his pro day and at the combine and the college
Senior
Bowl. Yeah.
Yep.
They were really looking at him. So they went ahead and got him. And then he was risky enough. He would have been okay with not getting Darnell Jones when they traded back with Carolina, but still was able to get Darnell Jones. So, I mean, it was lucky that other teams didn't take him, but it was a calculated risk he was willing to take. So he obviously had somebody other than Darnell Jones he was ready to take at that pick 93, I believe it was.
Yeah, 92 or 93.
Yeah, something like that. He was ready to get somebody else, but Darnell Washington fell to him. So great. So, I mean, I really think Omar Khan and all the players they got, 2 thumbs up to every draft pick they got, and really at least 1 thumbs up to all the free agents they signed.
Yeah. So what's your take on Broderick Jones, though? I mean, you already gave the pump your brakes, which trust me, I'm going to pump up your show coming up on Tuesday. We will talk about that for sure. But what is your take on Broderick Jones in regards to, do you think he starts week 1 or do you think he's more of a, let's take a wait and see a la Kenny Pickett a year ago?
I had probably Paris Johnson and Broderick Jones 1A and 1B. The kid from Northwestern.
Yeah. So
Peter Skronsky.
Yeah. He was probably the best tactician, technique-wise and all that. But just the physical build of Paris Johnson and his athleticism. But I think ultimately Broderick Jones is probably stronger and just as good an athlete as Paris Johnson. So I think Paris Johnson is going to be easy for him to start in Tennessee. That's where he went, right?
Who?
No,
Arizona Cardinals.
Cardinals. Yeah, he went pick 8 or 9.
Mm.
Yeah. So I think he's going to be able to start right away. in Arizona, no questions asked. Like, no questions asked.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Broderick Jones, depending on what he does in camp, can still start game one, but I feel like Paris Johnson was more a shoe-in to start game one opening week than what Broderick Jones is. And that's partly because Dan Moore has played so well too. You know, I wouldn't mind a situation where Broderick Jones wins the left tackle and then let Dan Moore compete with Chooks and let him win that, then go ahead and get all that money Chooks is getting off the books, because Chooks is not that much better than Dan Moore, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, they both seem like they're suited for the opposite side. Dan Moore looks like he's a perfect right tackle, and Chooks looks like he should be a perfect left tackle, and yet neither seem to work out on that respective side.
No.
Big G, what's your take?
Well, you know, I'm going to say this thing too, Jeff, about the whole draft thing too.
Yeah, go for it.
Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin was on the same page. And it's where Tolbert and Tomlin would fight about stuff. I think Khan and Tomlin was on the same page with this one, because Tomlin wants chess pieces. He loves that. He wants to have guys he can throw everywhere. And a lot of the guys we got are chess pieces. So I think that, number one. But back to your question, I think that the issue is that this is my thing about Broderick Jones. Week one, we have the San Francisco 49ers in Pittsburgh, okay? Joey Bosa's showing up, right? And
here he goes with another Ohio State guy.
No, but listen, Joey Bosa's a top.
That's his brother, Nick Bosa, will be.
Yeah, Nicky Bosa. Nicky Bosa. He's a top 2 or 3 defensive lineman in the whole NFL, right? Absolutely. So in order for you to run a rookie out there on the field, you got to be for sure. He's not going to get picket killed. So that's why I say the preseason is so critical. He needs the reps and the time at game speed to see, because the best guy maybe in the business is showing up in the building week one. So if he starts week one, it's a wrap. He's there for the rest of the season. He's going to be a starter for a long time. So that's why I think, like I said, like the preseason thing is just a big deal, because you have to have the reps and the know-how to be able to be attacked by a top defensive end in the whole NFL.
To me, it's just I want him to earn it. You know, like when Kendrick Green was a rookie and he was trying to be a center, everyone's like, well, I just want him to earn it. I don't want him to be handed the job because no one else can do it. Like I want him to beat out Dan Moore and prove, hey, this is my job. That's different than like, well, we traded up in the first to get you. We feel like we should throw you out there so people don't call you a bust and all that stuff. Like, that's not what I want. I want to bring up a couple players here in the draft class that are not, they don't get talked about. They really don't. Everyone talks about, obviously, Broderick Jones, Joey Porter Jr., Corey Trice, Darnell Washington. Those 4 have dominated the conversation from the moment they were selected in that 3-day process.
Yeah.
Keanu Benton, even Dave Schofield, always forgets that he was not a second-round pick. He was a second-round draft pick out of Wisconsin, which is, the Steelers love Wisconsin. They play a very pro-style defense, and that's why they love to go to get their Badgers. But Tate, I want to throw it to you. What are your expectations for Keanu Benton, the second-round pick this year in 2023?
I'm looking for him to be highly involved. There was an interview, I believe, with Steelers Live, Missy Matthews, and interviewed Larry Ogunjobi and asked him, which one of the defensive line are you looking forward to play? And he said number 95, talking about Keanu Benton. So, I mean, there's a world, it may not be first game, but the Pittsburgh Steelers have an early bye this season, I believe week 6.
Yep.
And it could be right after that. I mean, he's going to get playing time the first part of the season, but he could be a legitimate starter on the defensive line after the bye. It make a lot of noise. I mean, his size, 6'5", 310, something like that. His wrestling background, his athleticism for a nose tackle. I mean, I think with Keanu Benton, we're looking at a future now Hall of Famer, Pro Bowler, a future Pro Bowler. Let me taper it down a little bit for Big G. Give you an example how you should say it, Big G.
So what about you, Big G? What are your thoughts on Keanu Benton and his expectations as a rookie?
Everything I've seen and read so far, Keanu Benton is the starting nose tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I know we're all Steeler fans. We've been Steeler fans forever. The Blitzburg defense works when you have a beast 2-technique nose tackle. And when they can play 2-technique and 3-technique, which means that they take 2 guys every single time, you tilt them one side or the other, right? Think back to Casey Hampton. Think about how dangerous we were as a defense, not just because what we had at linebacker and going in the defensive back, but you had a solidified nose tackle on that defensive front. Keanu Benton's that guy. He's an athlete, and he's huge, right? So everything I've read says he's going to start. Once again, Jeff, I agree with you totally. He's got to earn it. But I think this kid might be a day one starter as well because he's really that talented. I went back and watched film on him, like a lot of film on both of those Wisconsin kids. And he was out there causing problems, man. He got double teamed every single dang on time. And he still was getting in the backfield, knocking down passes, had sacks, tackles for loss. So I'm like, man, if he can do that in the Big Ten, he can do it anywhere.
Yeah, they've compared him a lot play style wise. Former Steeler Javon Hargrave.
Yeah. Agreed.
That's what I was going to ask you all, is a player comp for Keanu Benton. Because, Casey Hampton, those players, he and like Vince Wilfork, they just don't exist in today's National Football League.
Yeah.
You just can't throw a guy out there that's not mobile enough to be able to move down the line of scrimmage and try to maybe even chase down a ball carrier from behind. Excuse me. So Keanu Benton, I'm going to go with, I had Alan Saunders on my podcast last Monday, the Let's Ride podcast, which you can hear on your audios only side, wherever you get your podcasts every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. I asked him about Keanu Benton. He said, well, if he's only going to be a nose tackle, how often do the Steelers cart a nose tackle out there? I mean, unless they're playing the Ravens or the Browns, if they're a really run-heavy team, well, they're in a lot of sub packages, and they're taking that nose tackle off the field. So his question was, is Keanu Benton going to be able to show some versatility in the short amount of time in training camp that, hey, I can play more than nose tackle. If you need me to kind of move out a little bit to that defensive tackle spot, that's going to be a big thing to watch. But ultimately, I'm excited for Keanu Benton. I want to see that competition and see how do they use him? How do they use DeMarvin Leal in year 2? They flexed him all over the place last year. Does Isaiah Loudermilk fit into this? What about Braden Fihoko and Montravius Adams? If you have Benton as your primary nose tackle, one of those 2 guys is gone. They're just not going to keep both. So that's going to be a position group to watch. Another player, though, in the draft class that is not getting talked about. Everyone's just kind of saying, special teams. And that's Nick Herbig. Another Wisconsin product, pass rusher. The Steelers bring in Golden as that number 3 guy, and everyone thinks, we don't need this guy. We don't need Nick Herbig. So, Tate, I'll throw it back to you first. Do you have any expectations outside of special teams for Nick Herbig this year? And if you don't, why not?
I think Nick Herbig will get some clock, some tick. But he's set up now with the signing of Marcus Golden, a proven edge rusher in this league who's had multiple double-digit sack seasons. Herbig is now set up to learn from a good room, from T.J. Watt, the best, Alex Highsmith, who learned from T.J. Watt, and Marcus Golden, bringing all the knowledge things he's picked up over his career to the room. So I think Herbig will play mostly special teams. I mean, he may get 8 to 10 snaps a game on the edge out there when somebody really needs a blow. But his thing is just to be there, be the best he can at special teams, and learn from the guys that are ahead of him, because Marcus Golden signed a 1-year deal, and next year Herbig will be that 3rd edge rusher.
Yeah, it's a good point. Big G, what do you think?
I agree a lot with what Tate is talking about, but I'm just going to say this, 2 points. Point number 1, when was the last time the Pittsburgh Steelers made it all the way through a regular season and one of our best outside linebackers didn't get hurt? That's number 1.
Yeah.
And number 2, when the Pittsburgh Steelers are at their maximum, they can bring pass rusher depth into the game. Think about, when we had Joey Porter Sr. and some of the other guys that had an outside. Debo, Debo was buried on the depth chart at one point for the Steelers. People didn't even know who
Jason Gilden was around back then, I believe.
Yeah, people didn't even know who he was. So when the Steelers have guys that they can bring in and out of that lineup, and they can continue to put pressure off pressure, because like I said, we run a base defense sometimes. We start out in a 3-4, but the whole thing about Blitzburg is being able to disguise where it's coming from and where it's coming. So having depth, having a couple of guys behind the 2 primary starters that if something happens, we ain't worried. I feel a lot better than I did last season because when Watt went down, I was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And because I knew that we didn't have anything backing him up. So I feel a lot better about the outside linebacker for the Steelers this season, definitely than I did last season.
Do you think, G, when you think about, and I know you've watched Herbig's Wisconsin film.
I have.
Is he the type of athlete that they could potentially, and we've seen this with TJ Watt. People need to forget this. We've seen TJ Watt standing up in the middle of the defense on occasion in specific sub packages, almost as if he's an inside linebacker. Does Herbig have that skill set or no, in your opinion?
He probably did that 30 to 40% of the snaps in Wisconsin because they play an exotic defense. They run some shell 4-3, but a lot of it's 3-4 base. So if you go back and look at it, they moved him around like a chess piece. I saw a couple of snaps where he was literally standing over the top of the center. And I was like, what is he doing in there? Well, they didn't realize they dropped him in coverage. Two guys came from the opposite side because they were so worried about his ability to get to the passer that they were like, oh God, we got to double team him. And somebody shot the gap and they killed him. So going back on his film, the only thing I'm a little worried about him with is that sometimes he's a little bit too aggressive. Outside linebacker, you got to read your keys. You can't just play reckless football, kill the quarterback. That's all you got to do. You got to be able to recognize, okay, look, these guys are in 12 personnel. They shift a guy across the line. You're probably going to get double teamed on the end. So instead of shooting the gap, stand him straight up and let the guys come to him. So I seen him do that a lot. And when he did it, he got burned. But a lot of times he's a chess piece overall for Wisconsin. So I think, special teams starting out, but as the season goes on, chess pieces are going to be critical for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
Okay. Tate, anything to add to that?
Yeah, we won't know how much time he gets until training camp gets underway because they talked about, him getting time at the off-ball linebacker too. And as far as speaking about chess pieces and Khan and Tomlin loving obviously availability, you have to be able to play, but also versatility, like Jeff said. Those players that you can move in different places. So I think Herbig is ready to play. And let's not forget, you said about Wisconsin, he comes from that system, defensive coordinator Jim Leonard.
Yes.
Who also was an ex-Baltimore Raven, who I believe got his defensive ideology from his time in Baltimore.
Absolutely.
Just that aggressive style, blitzing, a lot of zone schemes and stuff like that. So I think Leonard is more ready to play than some of the other rookies because of the style of defense that, along with Keanu Benton, because along with the style of defense they're coming from, is something similar to some of the things the Steelers do. So I like I said, I like Leonard more going forward next year as a third edge rusher, but he'll get some clock this year. He'll get special teams, and he may just be so explosive of a player that they have to find a way to get him on the field in some different packages and stuff. So I do see him again playing time, and I love him. I love the pick.
Okay. So last thing to wrap up this first half of the show in terms of looking at the 2023 offseason for the Steelers, what's missing? With no team, I don't think any team in the NFL can look at their roster right now and say, yep, we're done, we're good. There's always going to be areas that you feel like whether it's depth is lacking or maybe they're missing a starter here or there. G, I'll throw it over to you first. What do you think, if there's anything missing, what is it on the Steelers roster heading into training camp?
I'm not 150% sold on both of the middle linebackers that we picked up in free agency. I like them. I think they're good players. I think they're aggressive, but I think that we need to add another guy in the mix. There might be a guy sitting right there in Pittsburgh. Reuben Foster, first-round draft pick, played in the USFL. I watched some of the Pittsburgh games in the USFL. He looked good. So why not bring a kid that's right there locally? He's not that old. I think he was in the 2019 draft. Bring him into camp.
29. He's 29.
He's 29 years old. So bring him into camp. Let him run around and see what's going on. If he can work, we get another inside linebacker.
Drafted the pick after TJ Watt.
Yeah. So I like him. But I think that we need another inside linebacker. Just maybe. Our offensive line, I'm pretty good on it. Everything else, wide receiver, definitely. Running back depth, definitely. Quarterback depth, DB depth, defensive line depth. I just think we need another inside linebacker.
All right. Tate, you agree, or is there another position that you feel like is kind of lacking at this stage?
I agree with the position Big G picked. I do like the guys they have, Holcomb and Robertson. Yes. I do like them both, but I do think they need a change of pace guy, a sideline to side guy, pass coverage type middle linebacker. And I would agree that Reuben Foster could potentially be that guy, one of those guys. The thing about him is he's coming off the USFL championship. The Marauders got beat, I believe, by the Birmingham Stallions.
Mm-hmm.
So he was kind of injured. So to getting done with the USFL season and going into an NFL training camp, I mean, man, the goal is to get to the NFL again, right?
Exactly.
So he would have to do it, but I mean, he'd have to prove himself in training camp. Then maybe if he makes the roster, they can use him sparingly during the season as needed until like after the bye. Let him kind of get a 6-game rest, de facto rest, and go from there as far as Reuben Foster goes. But I do like the guy. We're gonna be more physical in the linebacker room, more run stuffing. I mean, Devin Bush and Miles Jack were getting bullied and run over last year, right?
Killed.
So these guys are true downhill thumpers, but it's like you have two Vince Williams, and you kind of need not Ryan Shazier. Oh yeah, I'm not gonna go there, Big G, who would have been a Hall of Famer from Ohio State if he
without a doubt.
Keep his career going. But we need one of those guys. That's why I'm a big proponent in support of the potential Isaiah Simmons trade.
Oh,
I mean,
oh,
I like that. I like that fit. I mean, that's just more versatility on the field. When you think about the amount of versatility like that would be between a guy like him and Keanu Neal, you talk about KZ and Minka Fitzpatrick can both play single high and come down, and you got the corners Porter and Trice and Peterson all can bully somebody and jam receivers in the line of scrimmage. This is going to be a very good and physical defense.
Jeff, I got to take the sign on this one, man. Trade. Trade. Isaiah Simmons, man. Oh my God, please trade for him, man. Please get him.
I never seen the trade sign, man. You stay busy with your Crayolas, don't you?
I got a factory upstairs, man.
Well, for me, I'm an optimist. If you listen to my podcast, you know I'm an optimist. I guess for me, I like to think that maybe the Steelers have a plan. They have not signed an inside linebacker that has the actual potential to be a significant player for a reason. I don't think it's because they just didn't have the opportunity. I think there's an intent there. Maybe that intent comes out in the form of Keanu Neal flexing down into a linebacker role in some sub package.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Tanner Muse using his athleticism that we all saw at Clemson that just how does it just vanish in the NFL? I mean, he still has to be athletic. That maybe he's one of those guys that could maybe be a piece, this versatile chess piece that G talked about earlier that Mike Tomlin loves.
Yeah.
You could talk about someone like, and our source inside said Elijah Riley's having one hell of an offseason.
Yeah.
Maybe he could flex in and out. I don't think that Omar Khan and Andy Weidel and Mike Tomlin and the entire front office sat on their hands and said, man, we missed on a linebacker. I guess we'll get him next year. I think that they have a plan. There's plenty of people out there that are going to disagree and say Tomlin doesn't know what he's doing and these guys are fools. And maybe they'll be proven wrong. I firmly believe that there is a plan, whatever that may look like.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, all right, I'll tell you what, let's take a break. We're going to take a quick break. If you're listening on the audio side, you're going to hear a word from our sponsors, maybe two. We're paying the bills. Be patient. If you're watching live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all those platforms, don't go anywhere. We're not going anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, Steeler fans, welcome back. Second half of the show. I wanted to start this off. Tate kind of stole my thunder a little bit. He kind of teased the tease a little bit, and that was the fact that these two guys have a show coming out. So I said this on I was on the live 4th of July, and I'm shocked that this guy didn't say anything publicly, but maybe that's just not his MO, so to speak. But Jeffrey Benedict is stepping away from podcasting. He's got to take care of some family business. We understand that. We respect that. And so he said he's got to go. And so that's why this week there was no curtain call. So he was on the curtain call. He was also didn't have the Cutting Room Floor podcast. So for me and for Brian and for Dave, we're like, okay, we got to figure something out. So I love listening to the Homies podcast. I love the banter and the interaction. And I said, Tate and Big G are both Steeler fans, and they never just get to chop it up about just the Steelers. Like, they always have to talk about the Bengals and the Ravens, which is great, and that's why I love listening to the show. I said, what if we give these guys an opportunity to do their own show, and they could be on Tuesday morning? So, guys, you came up with an idea. You came up with a premise. I'm going to give you the opportunity to kind of tell the listeners out there. This is going to be an audio only show, by the way. You're not going to see this on YouTube. You're going to have to go to our audio podcast feed, anywhere we get your podcast. Tuesday morning, 5 a.m. Eastern time is when it'll be published. So Big G, Tate, whoever wants to do it, go ahead and explain the name of your show, the premise, and how it's going to work.
Yeah, Tate, you want to get it? You want me to grab it? All right, so the name of the show is called Pump Your Brakes, man. We have a lot of banter that goes on a lot of times with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and me and Tate's been at this really realistically for about 35, 40 years about who's better in this area, who's better in that area, what player's better here, what player's better than there. Anybody that knows me, I have an extreme amount of enthusiasm that goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I say sometimes some outlandish stuff. So that gives Tate an opportunity.
Oh, there it is.
Pump your brakes, baby. So when I go out a little bit too far, Tate's going to run questions by me. I'm going to run questions by him. Pump your brakes. We need to slow this thing up and just really give an accurate view of what the Pittsburgh Steelers really is all about, past, present, and future, without being so biased about our love or nature for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the name of the show is the Pump Your Brakes. Me and Tate's going to have a lot of fun with it, and we hope that everybody takes an opportunity to listen in with us with the new show, man.
Tate, anything to add?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything what Big G said. Example, and you'll probably hear Big G get the brake slammed on way more than me. But it could be something like best all-time Steelers wide receiver, and I say Antonio Brown, and Big G says Lynn Swann. And if I say Antonio Brown and Big G doesn't agree, he'll tell me to pump my brakes, and we'll have a discussion about that particular topic. If he agrees with me, we'll just keep moving on. Mm-hmm. So it could be something as trivial as best sandwich in Pittsburgh, Permane Brothers, or another place, and we'll talk about a lot of different things just to try and make it fun. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think like he said, we've been Steeler fans for the past 40 years, like you said. And we've known each other for the past 40 years. And so we've kind of grown up Steeler fans together. So we have a lot of history and a lot of things that we can talk about on this new show.
It's amazing how Steelers fans, and there's so many of them, it's a global brand, how so many fans can have different outlooks and perspectives on the team. There's people that if you're an optimist, you never want to look at the hard truth. Like there's those type of truther fans that you're never wanting to call out people or whatever. And then there's the fans that are always the haters. And then some people like myself, like, man, do you ever enjoy watching this team? Like, do you really like this team? I would, if I didn't know any better, if I was an alien that came down from outer space, I would think that you hated this team. No, I love this team. That's the nature of the beast, and that's hopefully what you are going to bring out in this show. And, when I was talking with Brian and we were pitching ideas, and I said, look, we want shows that are different, and we want unique ideas. We want unique voices. If everything was the same, no one would listen. So that's why we have the Stat Geek on Thursdays. You all are going to be on Tuesdays. You're going to be in between my Let's Rides on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's going to be a great morning lineup. I've always loved our morning lineup. I think it's going to be just as great, if not better. I'm excited for this show. It's going to be the first time you're going to hear it is this upcoming Tuesday at 5 a.m. audio only. So if you're a YouTube viewer right now and you're like, I can't wait to see this, unfortunately, you're not. You got to go to the audio side. You're just going to hear it through your earbuds or in your car on your commute. So, guys, thank you for stepping up to the plate. I'm really looking forward to that. And it kind of brings up a question. You brought back in the second half of the preview. I know Tate's watched the show before. We like to have some fun in the second half. And Tate, we're going to get to your question here in a second. I know you got a quarterback question. I wrote an article for the website last weekend about my very first favorite Steeler of all time. He's not my favorite Steeler of all time. It was just the first player that I gravitated towards. And, I'm younger than these gentlemen that are on the screen with me right now. I don't know by how much. I'm 40, but still. My first favorite player wore number 29, had a very brief career with the Steelers, but boy, did they run the wheels off of that guy. That was none other than Barry Foster's bananas, And I loved Barry Foster because the 93, 94 season, like the years that I got all in on the Steelers, like as a kid, I was just like, yes, like I loved the Blitzburgh's defense. This guy was running all over everyone. Boy, his career flamed out quickly, but it made me wonder, like, who was your first favorite player? So again, not all time, but the first player that you're like, man, that guy that guy's something. And I wore number 29 in 7th grade because of Barry Foster when I played football. So, G, I'll throw it to you first. Who was your first favorite player for the Steelers?
The first guy that I actually fell in love with, and I wanted to be him, but I didn't have the body type or whatever else to be like him, was John Stallworth. I love John Stallworth. He was my favorite player. I thought he was the greatest receiver that had ever been, ever. And it wasn't just some of the stuff that I saw him, because I didn't really understand what off the field things was until like my grandfather started explaining to me like who this guy actually was off the field. So, going back and watching Stallworth, I even get chills sometimes talking about him and thinking about him. Like, man, this guy was my guy. I loved him. Now, I gotta make a preference, Jeff. There was another guy that stole my heart some years later, right? And Tate knows this. I even call him by a different name. Troy Polamalu. Troy Polamalu is my guy, man. I love Troy, man. Everything about Troy Polamalu, I think he personifies what a Steeler is. So, but to fall in love with the team, Stallworth, some years went by, Troy Polamalu, he sealed the deal.
So is Troy your all-time favorite player?
Yeah, he's number
That's
one.
Good.
Yeah, he's number one. There's no ifs, ands,
Tough
what's
to
about
beat.
it. Yeah.
Tough to beat. Tate, what about you? First favorite Steeler, and then if you want to go the G route and go with your all-time favorite, go for it.
Okay. Well, real quick, you're 40, Big G and I are both 50, so we're 10 years apart.
Okay.
And when Barry Foster was good, Big G, remember that's when we were watching the Steelers and we was going down to Cabby's to get them steaks up for every game and stuff.
Yep. I just came home from school. Yep.
And my all-time favorite Steeler, man, like Big G, the guy opposite of John Stallworth, Lynn Swann.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Lynn Swann was just so graceful, and the catches he had in some of the Super Bowls and the way he played the game. I mean, as from a background in ballet.
Yeah.
I mean, went to USC, was a first-round pick. Lynn Swann was on the cover of High C cans back in the day.
Yeah,
I had my mom buy High C just because Lynn Swann was on it.
Yep.
So I remember all those things in the late 70s, early 80s. Lynn Swann was my guy. My all-time favorite Steeler, real quick, and I got his helmet right here. Rod Woodson.
Yeah.
Rod Woodson's my all-time favorite Steeler. I mean, there's so many, but I mean, Rod Woodson came around about that time frame. He was from Fort Wayne, Indiana, which Big G is like about 45 minutes from where we were at.
45 minutes
across the Indiana border.
Yep.
So I was a Rod Woodson fan. He was, and then that was the time we were getting ready we were playing probably junior high freshman football at the time. Mm-hmm. And he was just my all-time favorite guy, man. He would return interceptions back, return kickoffs and punts. There was nothing he couldn't do in a football field.
Yeah. Now, do you all still have, because sometimes people, this kind of like, it kind of weans its way out of your system. Do you still have favorites on the current team? And if so, who is it? G, go ahead.
My current favorite?
Yeah, on the roster right now.
Najee, man.
Are you like, all right.
Not Najee. I mean, I love Cam Hayward. I love TJ, but there's something about that Najee, man, is a little different. So I like Najee. I think Najee has an opportunity to be a career Steeler. So Najee on the current roster, the young guys, Najee's my guy.
I hope you're right, as in the career Steeler. I hope he gets that second deal. What about you, Tate? Current roster.
Man, you're so similar. I would agree with Big G. and TJ a close second, because I'm a big mentality guy. You know what I mean? I like guys that bring an attitude and mentality. When you take somebody like Kobe Bryant or Kevin Garnett and the way they played the game and they practiced, and it was no fraternizing with the other side and that's my friend and all that stuff, and we go play against each other. I like those old school mentality type guys. So I think Najee is that. I mean, he's of a new generation, but he's high in football characters, Mike Tomlin says. So Najee would be my guy too, with TJ being a close 1A and 1B.
Man, I would have bet money that one of you was going to say Cam as a former Buckeye, and another was going to say Minkah Fitzpatrick, the silent assassin in the back secondary. Like, I thought for sure. And Tate's even talking about that work ethic. Like, Minkah is a worker, man. Like, that dude he's great for a reason. You know, it's God given, but at the same time, the dude.
Yeah,
works
he's a worker, Jeff. I completely agree with you and know that he is, but he's not that vocal guy. You know what I mean? He's not that vocal guy. And I think Najee will come into a huddle and tell the lineman, "Hey, dude, you know, this is what's going on." I mean, I just think he's one of those kind of guys.
But no love for the former Buckeye, Cameron Hayward. Wow, that's surprising.
Yeah, I got love for him, but I like Najee, man. I like Najee a lot.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Tate, you said before we were talking on the Slack channel, and you said, I've got a question for you all. I think it is based around quarterbacks. Am I right?
It is. It is based off the PFF quarterback rankings.
All right, go ahead.
Take them with a grain of salt. It is PFF, but when I saw it, I thought it'd be interesting.
Jeff, PFF.
Dumpster fire. Dumpster fire indeed, yeah.
So their quarterback list, the top 5, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, in this order: Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and Aaron Rodgers. Right? Now, I'm not going to tell you, you may know, I'm not going to tell you where Kenny Pickett is on this list, right? I'm going to ask you who you would take Kenny Pickett over the quarterback that I asked you if you would take him over. Okay. So Kenny Pickett, obviously, or Ryan Tannehill.
Oh my gosh, I'll take Kenny Pickett.
Big G?
Keep it pushing, man. You already know. Come on, man. Keep it pushing, man.
You starting to pump your brakes already?
Yeah, keep it pushing, man. Let's go, man.
Kenny Pickett or Geno Smith?
I'll take Kenny Pickett.
Keep it pushing. Keep going.
Kenny Pickett or Jared Goff?
Keep it pushing. Keep moving.
Jared Goff has been in a Super Bowl, but even then, I'm still going to take Pickett probably.
Right now, today, we're talking about.
I'm taking Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett or Daniel Jones?
Oh, my God.
I'm still taking Kenny Pickett.
Jeff, Daniel Jones is a scrub, man. He's a scrub. So Kenny Pickett, of course, man. We named him a scrub on the show.
The next 3 are going to be a little closer. I figure you guys might take Kenny Pickett over those guys. So Kenny Pickett over Kirk Cousins.
This is the comp. This is what everyone has the comp. Like when Kenny Pickett was coming out of college, is what everyone's like, oh, there it is. He's a Kirk Cousins quarterback. So that's what always comes to mind. Oh. You know, I like Kenny Pickett's mobility. I'll go with Pickett. I think they're pretty similar as the thrower. So I'll take Pickett.
Tate, the same quarterback that plays in Minnesota is the same quarterback that plays in Dallas. Dallas quarterback, you know how I personally feel about them. So Kenny Pickett is better than Kirk Cousins, man.
Okay, so that was the next question. Kenny Pickett or Dak Prescott?
Oh, Jeff, go ahead. Just go ahead, Jeff. While I find my sign, Jeff. Go ahead, man.
I mean, there's a lot of people that this is when they would start to stray. They would start to say, okay, maybe Dak because, you know, he's gotten the big money. The dude's won nothing. Like, I mean, and I'm talking, has he won a playoff game? Maybe one?
He's 2-3.
Two. Okay.
He's 2-3.
2-3. Kenny Pickett hasn't won any. I understand that. I'm a homer. I'm going to take Pickett.
Okay, last one, and then this one is a little tougher, maybe. Kenny Pickett or Russell Wilson?
Oh,
gosh, Russell Wilson looked so bad last year, and that was it. Is that an anomaly, or is this what we're expecting in Denver from Russell Wilson? I don't know. I
think it's going to be an anomaly, but all things considering, well, you can play quarterback for a lot longer now. But Russell Wilson's 33, Kenny Pickett's 25. But
man, the hype train with Kenny is real, and I might be the conductor on that train. So I'm going to take Kenny Pickett.
Tate, it's a toss up. I got to go backwards one time. Dak is trash, man. So of course Kenny Pickett is better than him. But this is what I got to say. Can Sean Payton resurrect Russie? I don't know. Kenny Pickett's going this way. Russie's going this way. So I'm always going to take the upward projector guy. Give me KP8, man, for sure.
Okay, well, see, and I don't think the national media really has a handle on things like we do in knowing what Kenny Pickett is doing and knowing his work ethic. And this dude is working out with receivers before his wedding, on his wedding day. This is what he's doing.
They hide in bags trying to get over there, man.
So all the quarterbacks I asked you guys about were ranked over Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett was ranked 22.
Oh.
Kirk Cousins 9, Dak Prescott 10, Geno Smith 15, Jared Goff 16, Daniel Jones 17, Ryan Wilson 19, and Russell Wilson 20.
Oh my. Tate.
So wait. So we're saying Kenny Pickett's probably like a top 15, 14 quarterback going into the season, in our opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I put him in the top half.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Well, you all did the homies. Where do you put him amongst the AFC North quarterbacks?
Second.
Just behind Joe.
Yep. Second behind Joe Burrow. That might be biased and all whatever else. Deshaun Watson's got to prove it to me, and Lamar Jackson's got to stay healthy.
That's
so
true.
as far as the projection, see, you got me pump your brakes. I said second. But Tate gonna say no, but I say second.
I got him. I got him fighting for third with Deshaun Watson. I mean, he has a lot to prove. And we talking about guys that've done stuff in the league. Deshaun Watson played 5 games last year. He didn't look very good, but when he last played, he was very good. Lamar Jackson's a former MVP. You just need to stay healthy. Joe Burrow's going to a Super Bowl and 2 of the last AFC Championship games. So he's kind of third, fourth-ish. You know what I mean? But, he can easily.
Who has more weapons in the AFC North? Now we know. I'm not saying Jamar Chase is nice. I'm not ragging on them. T. Higgins is a dog. Tyler Boyd can play. But who got weapons, man? See, a lot of times it's not just your position; it's who you got around you. And KP8 got a whole lot of weapons. So that's why I say we're going to see this kid's trajectory, not just because it's work ethic and all whatever else. He got killer wide receivers.
But so do the Browns. They got the best running back in the league.
The Browns wide receivers trash, man. Come on, man.
Man. Amari Cooper has been a Pro Bowl wide receiver. They traded for Elijah Moore. They got David Njoku, who's a good tight end, and Deshaun Watson was a good quarterback last he played the full season. I think all the teams have weapons.
Tate, and Jeff. Harris, Warren, Robinson, Austin, Johnson, Pickens, Washington, Freiermuth. Come on, dog. Come on. It's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly fast. I'm just telling you. You can't stop it. You got too much.
A lot of that's going to be contingent upon Matt Cannon and his play calling also.
Very true. Very true.
And one thing to consider here, and I recently did this article for the up-and-coming Fans for Sports Network website. I ranked all the divisions, and I think the AFC North is the toughest division in the NFL.
Number 1.
In the NFL. And I don't even think it's that close. And to be honest, there's no pushover. When you look at some of these divisions, you've got that one, maybe even 2 teams where you think, the team's not going to be any good this year. You don't have that. Look at those 4 quarterbacks. If Kenny Pickett's the worst, in some metrics, people have him as the worst because he's the least proven. He's still an up and coming quarterback who has a lot of upside. So it's going to be interesting. But I'll tell you what else has been interesting has been the show. It's been a lot of fun. We always do final thoughts where you all get a chance to kind of say your piece to Steeler Nation, the Steel Curtain Network fan base. So Tate, I'll let you go first. What are your final thoughts today?
Well, once again, Jeff, thanks for having us on here with you, man. It's been a lot of fun. It's a pleasure to be on the preview. That's the preview, like we talked about when we were on Let's Ride, Big G, like getting on hosting Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
The preview is the number 1 primetime slot for the Steel Curtain Network, and here we are. So thanks, Jeff, for having us.
No problem. Glad you guys can make it.
Just regarding what I want to say to close out, be sure to check out, like Jeff said, next week, the Pump Your Brakes podcast on all audio platforms, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and where else you get your audio podcasts. I think me and Big G are going to be an interesting dynamic to have our own show. And we appreciate and love Be Dirt and Pay, but just to do our own thing, all Steelers, is going to be fun. Regarding anything else, tomorrow, check out the homies, 8 o'clock here on YouTube, listen on the audio platform. Then the next day, if you miss it, I won't be there tomorrow. Shannon White's going to fill in.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
So Shannon White with the rest of the homies tomorrow night. So check it out.
He gets his honorary jersey tomorrow, Jeff.
There you go.
Yeah, his honorary jersey. He's indoctrinated to the homies tomorrow.
Hanging in the rafters. There you go.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, but Jeff, man, thank you again. Like, I'm just reiterating what Tate said, man, for the opportunity. We've been saying it, man. It's Saturday Night Live, prime time, all the way live for the Homies podcast, man, and introducing ourselves and having an opportunity to introduce our new show on your show, man. It's just something outstanding. We really, really appreciate it. For all my Steeler fans and Steeler Nation out there, man, you guys listen in, because I'm telling you, we're going to have fun with in-depth conversation, not about just Pittsburgh's present, but Pittsburgh's past. So we're going to have a lot of fun with the show, and we hope that everybody just listens, man.
Big G, plug. Tell them about the know-it-alls.
Oh, yeah, I cannot forget. That's how all this started, so I can never forget about what home base is. The Know-It-Alls podcast live on Facebook and YouTube, 6:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Rock with me, my boy Tate Boy Fresh, and, of course, my brother, homie, Mod, man. We're going to get it in for sure.
On Sunday.
Yeah, on Sundays.
Can't believe you all have a Cowboy fan on your show. That's ridiculous.
It's my brother, man. It's my brother. Can you imagine us growing up in the same house, and he was a Cowboy fan and I was a Steeler? Oh, my God, it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. And that's why I hate the Cowboys so much, because it's him. It's him. It's him.
And then also because in my knows, I don't know if he even knows we're doing this. He may not be watching. Cowboy fans are delusional. They're going to the Super Bowl every year since they last won in 95. I mean, Ma must have been like just graduating high school last time that they were good.
He was like 16, man. He don't know. He doesn't have a clue about what it really takes to build a winner, man, and be consistent, man. But, that's another story.
There you go. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining the show. We appreciate it. I'm looking forward to your work on Tuesday as well as the homies. Folks, we'll be back with the regular crew next Thursday for another Steelers preview podcast. In the meantime, we will check you out on the next show for the Steel Curtain Network. You can check me out tomorrow morning, Friday morning for my Let's Ride podcast. Check it out. It's a good one. And in the meantime, take it easy. We'll see you next week.
Curtain Network. Get it.
Everybody else gets a little tight.